All right, Elliot, floor is yours.
Great stuff. Okay, hi everyone. I'm here to talk about discoverability. So this is for MCP apps, ChatGPT apps, and as a brief introduction, Elliot Garreffa, co-founder of Ghost Team. We help companies build agents, MCP apps, ChatGPT apps, and actually we also have an app discoverability.com platform. And when we're working with these companies, it was kind of consistent in terms of the kind of main thing that they're asking about. So they obviously want to build the MCP app, ChatGPT app, and then the first question becomes, okay, once I built it, how do I actually get this thing discovered? And I think it's a question that's been on everyone's mind. We've spoken a lot about building stuff, but today I want to focus on, how can we begin to think about this topic as well? And it's very emerging. So there's still a lot of unanswered questions. We don't know exactly how this will work, but we've done a lot of research, a lot of data. So I just want to share basically what we know today and how we can start to think about this with hopefully some practical frameworks as well, just so that we can, if I can get the next slide, there we go. So that we can all start to think about this topic a bit more. So first of all, just the paradigm shift. So we're very much moving from the fragmented web where you're having to go and find the tool. So you are having an intent. So let's say you want to go and book a flight. You're then going to the internet. You're finding the tool. You're then finding the flight that you want. Now you have the intent-based web. So the tool is actually coming to you. You put your intent in, and then you actually are surface the tool at that exact moment, and it is also giving you some level of results. Now this is a really big shift because this means, okay, now a user can give an intent, and the exact tool that they want can appear. Well, how do I actually make sure that's my tool, right, and not a competitor's tool? You want to make sure that you're optimized for that level of discoverability, which is basically the future problem. So how do I actually solve that dilemma of making sure that it's my app that appears? And there's two different components here. So first of all, to actually just talk about some basic discoverability points, just so everyone is making sure they've got the foundations. You've got static discovery, right? That includes these public registries. That's the MCP official registry. That's your client-based registries. ChatGPT obviously submitting, Claude, you're submitting as well. But then you've got this other layer, which is on the organic side, right? This is the one we're talking about where you are actually appearing at the bottom of an intent within a chatbot. So you can see here an example. This is actually from around sort of October, November time. OpenAI was doing some early testing on, okay, how could this app promotion work? I'm sure many of you will remember that testing. There was a huge confusion that happened at that point because everyone was like, oh my God, it's an ad. I hate ads, da, da, da. This actually was an app. It was just a very primitive version of doing this testing. And I think we can expect to see something similar to this roll out. And I think it's something that we're all quite excited for because it's really this new way of discoverability in a much more organic fashion than going to these static stores. And we have had OpenAI confirm, at their build days, that they will be rolling this feature out and they're testing it at the moment. So we've thought very deeply about this and we've got a framework on discoverability that basically breaks down the different components that are important to think about. And what I wanted to do is, this is very detailed, I'll bring this up a level and just talk about some of the things that you can think about to start to improve discoverability today and then think about it going forward. So, so that you can orientate on this visual, the first block at the top are the foundations you need to think about. The second block below are measures that you can basically look at in terms of measuring, the outcomes. Are you actually achieving what you want? So if I just go around, it kind of iterates like that. So if you start on the far side, you just want to make sure you've got the basics around being found. So you want to make sure that you're in the registries. If you use something like Alpic, you can actually just one click go into the official MCP registry. You then want to make sure you're in the app stores. So obviously you're applying to ChatGPT, you're doing your best to get accepted. That will roll out more over time. Same with Claude, same with VS Code. Each client has its own approval process. The second piece is actually just really delivering value. So I mean that from more of a practical perspective, a build perspective. You want to make sure that your tools are working as well as possible. They're working as quickly as possible. They are making sure that the metadata is refined so that when you're actually getting someone to appear for a prompt, it's calling as they'd expect it to. Maybe, for example, it's not someone has, they call it negative prompts in the golden prompt set, which I'll get to. You don't want the app to appear when it just really shouldn't be appearing. You then have a really important point that I think will be more critical for recommendations, which is just ensuring that this is an app that people love and they come back to. You need high engagement rate, you want high retention rate. You want to make sure that your ratings are high. You might have noticed that when someone uses an app, they have a little thumbs up that they can select. And that's also good suggestions that this is actually something that people want to come back to. You might end up having ratings, right? Everyone knows from like the Apple App Store at the moment, everyone gives ratings. These ratings are super important. People also game that system. How can you make sure that you're at the moment of a sort of great result, someone gives a positive rating? So you want to be thinking about these foundations, and then you want to be measuring. So you will have certain prompts for your business that matter because they are the most prominent for the intent that the user has where your tool could then be given. So you want to make sure that you are appearing for your ideal prompts, and you want to actually test, am I appearing for the prompts that I want to? So you want to understand your target prompts, and you want to measure the response, are you actually appearing for those? You then want to make sure that the same thing with the static store, are you actually appearing where you want to? So for example, at the moment, the way it works is with keywords. So let's say you've got, and we'll get some data on this, you are a data-related ChatGPT app. If you search data, you'll get a certain number of apps that appear. You want to be at the top of that list. And that will actually become more dynamic over time. When you have a million apps in the App Store, it's not just going to be a long list. It's going to be a combination of factors that mean that you are there when someone searches in the App Store. Now, if I can get to the next one. This is a slightly more detailed version. And I won't go through all of this, but I'll just touch on a couple of things because I want to make it practical around things you can actually do today, given we're sort of waiting for a lot of this stuff to roll out. So firstly, like I said, definitely get into the registries. I've got a number that are listed there around kind of the MCP, GitHub, Smithery, OpenAI, Claude, etc. The MCP server cards I think is super interesting. We've spoken about earlier, and I think that will come online and it will help with discoverability, but a sub point we can chat about maybe offline. I think the second thing that you want to be thinking about is this tool and metadata. So right now, your ChatGPT app, for example, is made of all these tools. You can be optimizing as best as possible with the golden prompts that the OpenAI talks about. For my direct prompts, for my indirect prompts, and for my negative prompts, am I appearing exactly like I would expect? If you can really refine that and really get that nailed down, that will be a really solid foundation when organic discoverability comes around as well. I then say, you do want to be thinking about the dynamic discoverability component, understanding the prompts you want to target, and when that comes online, really testing whether you get the results. And then also, I'd say it's important to just start to think about the static discoverability part. We've been looking at, since the launch of the App Store, basically intelligence around understanding, okay, how is this App Store really going to work? And so we've got some quite interesting data as well. You can see here, there's a real pickup of late over the last couple of weeks around the number of apps, or days even this is, the number of apps that are appearing in the App Store. And you can actually see here you're already starting to get competition on which categories are emerging. So you've got now, it's very hard to read, 43% that are focused just on productivity. So it gets you to think about, okay, if I'm in that kind of category, how can I begin to differentiate myself? And in addition, I won't go through all of these. These ones were actually just released earlier today, so I thought I'd put that in. You can see big brands coming in, Granola, Indeed, etc. And already, these keywords are beginning to be competitive. So you've got 22 apps going for productivity, 24 for business, 13 for finance. And actually, a lot of apps are already starting to iterate their tooling. These are changes that the apps are doing to actually refine their tooling suite or metadata or descriptions that they have in the App Store. So again, interesting data points. I had 8 minutes, so I think that's hopefully on time. But if you want to connect and chat more about it, that's my LinkedIn. And this is private beta to our platform that we're developing that helps us as well.
Awesome.